Okay, welcome to the 98% podcast where we hear real stories from real people. And I'm here with Kevin. So, Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Kevin Sigourney. I have spent the last 25 years working at a company called Prosoco where I met you, and left there last summer and have been exploring the next chapter of my career, and lots of life changes have been happening, which I'm sure we can get into. But yeah, that's who I am.
Awesome. Yeah. So what has been happening since we last were hanging out? 'Cause it's been a while.
It has been a while, and I think we've talked about this podcast for, I feel like, a year. I feel like you asked me
Mhm.
before I left, certainly,
Yeah.
to be on it. And I had a lot going on, so I guess I can chronicle some of that.
Mhm.
After living in the Kansas City area, Lawrence, Kansas specifically, for goodness, well, since I graduated from college there, I guess. So that would have been 93. So let's just say I lived in Lawrence a long time, with the exception of a 8-year stint in California, which is where I'm at now. So I'm in Northern California. My wife's father and stepmother have lived here for quite some time, specifically in the Bay Area, north of the Bay Area, in a town called Napa, wine country, for those who don't know. And so after I left Prosoco, with the intention of um, really making a significant life change, career change, focusing more on family and whatnot, we moved. We packed up and moved back to Napa from Lawrence, Kansas. And yeah, that was kind of the start of my journey over the last several months to kind of rediscover myself, rediscover what's important, take some time to focus on family. My oldest daughter, we got her married in October of last year. She still lives in the Kansas City area, but uh, did a destination wedding for her out here in Napa, which was beautiful. At that time of year, the fall is incredible out here. And got my youngest daughter off to college in Southern California. She's a California girl after growing up in the Midwest. So I wanted to take time to be a part of that for them, and focus on that, and kind of focus on just taking some time off and figuring out what's next for me, and engaging in some self help, and having some ups and downs, I'll admit. Um, just life throws you curveballs, as you probably know, Ricky. And but yeah, I have 3 kids, and have wanted to spend just I just not that I haven't spent time and focusing on them, but really taking this hiatus from work, which I call a professional sabbatical, to really engage with them and do some things with them that I really hadn't been able to do before. And with those two important milestones with my daughters, I have a son too, who's still with us. He's 23. Um, just focusing really on them, and my wife, and just really wanting to dive back into some of the personal stuff that I don't want to say I neglected. I don't feel like I did neglect it, but it certainly wasn't getting enough time and attention while I was, focusing on my career and focusing on a lot of things. Um, a lot of them, because of us working together, but
Yeah.
just it wasn't a priority. So I was trying to make sure that that was a priority for me and for them, and giving myself some time to unwind, recharge the batteries, really figure out what it is I want to do for my next chapter. So that's, I guess, what's been going on. I think that was your question. What's been going on with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we can get into the career side of things in a little bit, but I'm still quote unquote on leave or on sabbatical. I've done a few little things here and there that have scratched an itch, if you will, on the
Uh-huh.
career professional side of things. But I'm still exploring. I'm still going after what I really want to do, say, for the next 10 years of my life, my next chapter, if you will. And I'm fortunate enough that I can be somewhat picky about what I want to do and not just rush into something. So, yeah. And I'm just enjoying the heck out of just not being on a schedule, to be quite frank with you.
Yeah.
To not rushing to the next meeting or setting up the next meeting, or I don't know, travel of this and that. The travel I do now is my travel, traveling with the wife and sometimes with the kids to see the kids or with the kids. So I'm just enjoying the heck out of that. So, um, yeah,
Yeah. It's got to be nice. So, what a couple things I wanted to talk about real quick, just because you sparked some ideas, some thoughts.
yep,
Like one, I know you're big into wine. You're a wine
yes,
connoisseur. So,
yes.
what got you into? Did you get into that when you lived in Napa the first time, or has that always been a thing?
It has not always been a thing. I think like most younger people, your your palette of choices of spirits, if you will, or alcoholic drinks, or just drinks in general, I don't think immediately screams to wine. Certainly, it wasn't when I was 20 something. Um, I'll tell you specifically what when it was. So, my wife, Julie, um, I mentioned her dad and stepmom. They were in the military, both of them. She was in a lot longer than he was. And she got a chance to kind of move around to different places. And anyway, ended up back in the San Francisco Bay Area. Uh, they arrived in the San Francisco area pretty much the year after, within a year of me meeting my wife, Julie. So I've really only known them having lived there, but they lived at various military places all over the place: Oklahoma, the Southeast, up north, up in South Dakota. So, I mean, there was a variety of places. But so, long story short, I guess, I we traveled out to see them soon after Julie and I started dating, and um, they took us up to at the time they were living in a place in San Francisco called Pacifica because it was close to the Army hospital where she was working, the Presidio at the time, which is no longer an Army base. But um, and they took us up to, well, they took us all over the Bay Area. It was the first time I'd really been to San Francisco outside of work for any length of time, and so took us up to Napa to experience a couple wineries and whatnot. It really didn't. Yeah, it was cool. It was like, yeah, but it was a second trip back after they had moved. So when she got done with her residency at the Presidio, they she got to choose at that point where do you want to go? What she was still an Army doctor at the time, and needed to then select a VA hospital to work in. And so they fell in love with the Bay Area, and so they moved to Napa, and she ended up at a couple different VA hospitals. One of them at Mare Island, and the other one was over in Fairfield. Anyway, So it was the second time we went out there to see them since they were living in Napa that they took us to a winery. It was a specific winery, I remember, that we did actually a more of a education tour. Or it was a tour and tasting, but they did a really good job of sort of educating people on the winemaking process and how grapes are turned into all these different wines. And so that's what really, I don't want to say I was hooked after that, but let's just say I was deeply interested in learning more about it. And that's kind of how I am about certain things. Like, I mean, I'll get a topic of like how does jet propulsion work? Like, how do airplanes take off? You know,
Uh-huh.
I'll just, I'll go down sort of a rabbit hole, and
Yeah.
my wife will be like, what are you talking about? Thermodynamics and I mean, it's just like, I just, and then I just kind of move on. I mean, after I kind of learn enough that sort of fills, oh, that's how those work. And that's this and that's that. And that's how that's related to this and that. Anyway. And so I did that with wine, and I did it immediately. And then I kind of went away from it for a while and just sort of, kind of started drinking more of it, just trying to try new things out. But it just fascinated me from the moment I did that tour, and it was Mondavi, who's still out here, and they're kind of a bigger winery now, and they're sort of commercialized. But back then, they were taking more of a one-on-one approach. This was in the mid '90s. They were taking a very, they did a really good job of explaining the process enough that it got me interested, and I started really learning about that more. And it still to this day fascinates me. Really, with anything, you can take any spirit, whiskey, beer. How do they take these grains? How, in the case of wine, how does a grape then turn into this thing that you drink that doesn't taste anything like a grape? And they can make red wine, they can make red versions of it, and they can make pink and white, and they can make versions that bubble and sparkle, and it just, how do you take, you know, um, corn and turn it into whiskey, and it's just that whole thing has always fascinated me. So I also learned about distilleries at the time, but I really focused on grapes, and it got me interested in it, and it got me drinking. I would say I wasn't enough, Ricky, that we'd keep a few bottles around. I'd
Yeah. Yeah.
still enjoy beer, and I still enjoy other things, but just there was something mysterious about wines that you know um, really just got me into it, and something sort of, it's a craft, just like brewing beer is a craft. I know Alex back at the office and I used to kind of talk about that. But with wine, there's just something, and I think they do it to a certain degree. It's part of their marketing scheme. They make it super sexy, and they talk about the earth. It's
Uh,
the soil, and it's the amount of sunlight and rain, and this western slope gets this much sun, but the temperatures in the morning are this, and it's just perfect to produce the plump, juicy, whatever. Well, most of that's true, by the way. A lot of that's true, but it captivated me and kind of drew me in, and um, got me interested in that. And then later in life, more recently, I actually took some classes to get a certification, a level 2 certification in wine. Not to make it, not to. I guess potentially I could sell it, or just to talk about it more intelligently, I guess you would say. Um, and yeah, that's that's my journey, how it began, I guess.
Mhm. Okay. Let's see. And then the other thing from your introduction. So just because obviously I have a daughter too.
Yep.
So what was it like? I guess, having your daughter get married and staying in Kansas City and the other one going to college. Like, what has that been like for you?
Oh goodness. Well, it's not easy. I wish I could sit here and tell you, and I wish I
Yeah.
could give you some words of wisdom to get you through it because you're gonna feel your own emotions and that sort of thing. Just a range of emotions, right? Pride, so proud. Um,
Hmm.
Sadness in some ways because you feel like you're kind of losing your daughter, but at the same time you knew this was coming eventually. Um, and just a lot of emotion. It's weird. It's like a flood of emotion. Of I think what I felt the most was uh, pride, though. I mean, the sadness was like, yeah, she's growing up, she's getting her own life, and yeah, but for me, it was just seeing her grow up to be an adult, right? And just
Hmm.
and going, God, I think I've prepared her for this. I hope I have. God, I hope I've prepared her,
Yeah.
for this point in time. And you can only do so much as a parent, right? And then you gotta let him go. But I look back on, I say I've done as well as I could to prepare her for this moment, and I couldn't be prouder of her and the woman she has become and the man she met as far as my oldest and getting married and then going off to college. It's a whole different, it's like the first time there's all these milestones, like when they graduate from different levels of school and go on to the next one, you're kind of nervous and scared for them. Grade school to middle school to high school to college. Well, the first time they drive, get their driver's license, it's terrifying and liberating all at the same time. And so yeah, it's just another level, but this one sort of has a going off to college is like that one step right before getting married and starting their own life. It's like that it's the gateway to that. So
Hmm.
it's difficult, but yet, you still, oh, they're coming home. Like, my youngest daughter, Tegan, who's down at San Diego, um, will be coming home in 2 weeks for spring break for a few days. So, you still get them and and she's not bringing a boyfriend that I know of. So, it's still kind of them and you, and they're still kind of dependent upon you to a certain degree. Whereas, getting married and starting their own life, and she has her own job and all that, it's incredible. It's an incredible moment. The cliche thing that people tell you is, wow, the time flies, right? You blink and these
Hmm.
kids are now they're grown up and they have their own lives and they're kind of leaving you behind. But it's it's I'm just so proud of both of them. It's crazy. When and our two girls are just different. You just have the one daughter, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Just one.
They couldn't be more different, Ricky, my two girls. They really couldn't.
I've heard that.
And my oldest was always just kind of I don't want to say independent, but I just never worried about her. She just knew what she was doing and she took control and like she'd clean her room and she'd clean the house and she knew how to do dishes and she knew how to cook. And I as much as you try to teach them doesn't mean they're going to take hold of it. And my youngest, always kind of had the messy room and you know could make a could maybe make mac and cheese but or heat up a hot dog, but then and just her going off to college and the wife's just freaking out about what if what if she needs this, what it's just like she's gonna figure it out. She's got to.
Mhm.
And they do, for the most part. And of course you're always there for them, but she's San Diego, while it's still in the same state as California, it's 9.5 hours drive away. You got to go through LA traffic and you got to drive through San Francisco traffic, and there's just no good. You could do a hour and 10 minute flight to get there, but the point is, she's got to figure it out. And
Mhm.
yeah, but it is crazy. You get this flood of emotion. You also just remember, hey, it wasn't too long ago I was changing their diapers, and I was taking them to their first day of kindergarten, and just I don't know. There's all of that wrapped up in a moment, and for my oldest who got married, walking her down the aisle, I was mostly fine. I was just like, yep, this is happening. I was more worried about, God, don't fall, don't trip on her. You know, I was more worried about the moment, and it wasn't until later when, I wanted to get up and say a few words that I was a mess. I just, I just,
Yeah.
there's no, I just tried to get through it without emotions. And of course, it was tears and emotions of joy and happiness and all that. But I was just like, couldn't get through it without had to take a few moments. I eventually did, but it's very emotional, but very cool.
Yeah. So which daughter takes mostly after you?
My first daughter, my oldest, Hannah. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Okay.
she has a bit of my obsessive compulsive disorder, keeping things clean. I'm the
Yeah.
cook. I That's a passion of mine. I don't know. I think one of your questions was maybe related to a skill or talent or passion or
Uh,
whatever. Cooking is mine. It's kind of my way to. It was always my um, depressurized moment after work. But she cooks. She enjoys cooking. She cleans. She's got kind of the same personality. My youngest, Tegan, and I are in many ways we're alike because we're both sort of also we have the same, I guess, sense of humor, and maybe it's because we're opposites in some ways, but we just know how to get it under each other's skin more. Like
yeah.
I know just a couple words to say that just sets her off, and she knows exactly what to say to set me off, and we both have come to realize that. It took us a while, but a few
Yeah.
years back, we were both, yep, that's you guys are Julie. My wife would be like, you guys are so much alike in that regard that it kind of, what's the word? We sometimes say things that gets under each other's skin. There's a layer of truth to it, but you probably shouldn't say it at that time.
Yeah, that's fair.
And she does the same thing to me. So yeah, but I would say my oldest. I think I'm her and I are more alike. And yeah, it's great
Nice.
being a daughter dad though. I mean, we have a son. He's 23. His name's Ethan. He has special needs though, so he's got Down syndrome. He's got autism, and he's got his own sort of challenges and whatnot. And so I don't really have the typical, I guess you would say, son experience. It's just different. It's equally rewarding and in many ways more so. But yeah, I love being a, a dad to two daughters and my son, of
Yeah.
course. But I mean, it's just, yeah, very rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel
How
that
old's your
too.
daughter?
She's 9.
She's
So
9.
she's 9. And same thing. It's flown by super fast. And yeah, for the longest time, and I've always told people this, like when we were having her, we just both assumed like, oh, we're gonna have a boy. Just feels like it.
Yep.
Sure enough, we did the little reveal party, girl, and we're like, oh, okay, how's this gonna go? Okay, let's see. And I can't imagine any other way now. Like
Yeah.
I really can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely rewarding for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole different set of, it's just different things, but it's great. I love my girls, and I'm so thankful, that they've grown up to be, Tegan, who's in college, just turned 18. So she's got, what's that, 7 years 7 years difference between her and my oldest, which is pretty significant. But they're starting to kind of, I mean, because for so long, Ricky, they didn't have a whole lot in common just because of the age gap.
Yeah.
And it's rewarding to see them kind of get close as they both get older. They're talking to each other more, and yeah, yeah, pretty cool.
Love that. Okay, so for anybody listening out there, so just to, if this is your first episode, so how this works is I, partnered with Kevin, had Kevin on here. I gave him the questions ahead of time that we're getting ready to go through, and yeah, the goal is just for hopefully you all to connect with his story, and we've already shared a bunch, but we'll go through. So let's start. We already talked about how you know me, so let's go to the next one, which is what was growing up like for you.
Mm. I mean, I'm a child. Really, I'm an '80s child, '70s and '80s, but the '80s were my more formative years. Um, I mean, it was pretty, I don't know. I wasn't sure how to answer it. It was pretty typical.
Yeah, yeah,
I
okay.
grew up in the Kansas City area. Spent all but 11 months. My dad had to move to Lincoln, Nebraska, for work for 11 months and then came back. So I've been in the Kansas City area really until I went to college when I was 18, moved to Lawrence. And then, like I said, I stayed in Lawrence until my first stint out here in California, which was um, 2012. But yeah, I two older brothers, so it's three boys. Feel bad for my mom and my dad. And just like we were talking about with our girls, or our kids, or my kids, I really, I couldn't be much different than my two older brothers. That came with, growing up the youngest, two older brothers. I had to get thick skin and sturdy bones, fairly quickly because, if anything bothered them, they'd find the easiest outlet to take it out take it
Uh,
out on me. But no, I mean, it was, I don't know. We grew up in Overland Park, Kansas. So on the Kansas side, um, I just remember, um, walking and riding my bike just about everywhere, because that's how you had to walk to school, you had to ride your bike to school, you had to go see friends. It was just your typical, I guess, suburban childhood. I had a job at a very young age. My first job was delivering newspapers. It was the Overland Park Sun. It was a small little regional newspaper. Um, Got on my bike with a bag, around the shoulder, and was throwing the newspapers. And then I had to go around once a month and collect. I want to say it was 50 cents or a buck from each person. And yeah, I worked at golf course too. I mowed lawns in the summer, and yeah, I mean, I guess it was just a pretty typical hanging out with your friends until the street lights came on in the summer. That was the rule. When the street lights come on, you come home type of thing. And yeah, it was just I'm gonna sound like an old boomer now, but it just seemed like a much simpler time than what our kids have to deal with now. I'm sure you could say the same thing to a certain degree, even though
mhm.
you're younger than me. But um, yeah, and my parents, did, I'd say we were middle class, kind of suburbia middle class parents, and I was very fortunate and thankful for them. One thing that I guess did kind of shape shaped to some degree my trajectory is my dad did die at a very young age. He was 56. That's what I'm turning, 56 this year.
Wow.
Um, Sudden heart attack, um, aortic aneurysm type thing. He was, kind of fairly quickly. And his health wasn't terrible. It wasn't like any of us expected this, but he didn't necessarily keep himself in good health. Um, and before that, he left a company he'd been with a long time and went out and tried to start something on his own. And that was during the an early recession period back in 90. I guess that was 92. Anyway, the he was a commodities. He was a grain trader. So the Board of Trade in Kansas City, he was. Some people sell or do trade stocks and bonds and mutual funds. There's also the same thing for farmers all throughout the Midwest to sell, and for consumers to buy things like wheat, soybean, and all that. So that's what he did. Anyway, he lost the timing was just terrible, and he had to declare bankruptcy, and we kind of went through some rough times. And then shortly after that, he passed away. So it was just if anything, for me, it was sort of a wake up call to that. God, nothing's guaranteed, right?
Yep.
Appreciate every moment, all those sort of cliche things. And I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye to him. And so that was just sort of a big moment. You had a question on here. I guess I'm kind of segueing to the next question, but struggles you've been through. I mean,
Yeah.
that certainly was one that, and when I say it shaped me, um, I I got into sort of the financial after college. I didn't go to college to become anything in the financial realm. I actually went to college thinking I wanted to be a doctor, but I shift gears and got into business school. And right after college, I got involved in the financial industry because I wanted to help people. I mean, my dad didn't do a very good job at that time. He didn't have a whole lot of savings. There was not a whole lot in the retirement. In fact, there was nothing in the retirement. He hadn't built up any sort of pension or anything like that. They were just, my parents, as I came to find out, were just kind of living day to day, perhaps over their means to some degree. And so that certainly has had an impact on me, is to try to make sure you start planning at a young age, financial planning. Put money in your retirement, Ricky, if you aren't. So that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just be smart with your money, try not to get in over your head, that sort of thing. So that was a particularly difficult challenge or struggle. I guess it just was, it had the profound effect on me that I need to make sure I prioritize certain things in my life, and one of them's always been health. And I've tried to things like that ebb and flow, as you can imagine, but that's kind of shaped. My dad was also somebody who just never went to the doctor. I mean, just literally, we could. So here's a quick story. I don't even know why I'm telling you this, but so one time I had gone to bed this night. My parents had some friends over and they were out. We had a little outdoor area, and we'd always hang out outside, and that was kind of the entertaining space during the summer and whatnot. And so my parents had some friends over and whatnot, and they were enjoying an evening. And around 10:30, 11 o'clock, things were winding down, and my dad um, uh, did the sliding glass door. I guess he was a klutz, and he thought it was open. He thought he left it open. He
Yeah.
literally, Ricky, walked right through it, glass shattered. I don't even, to this day, I'm not sure how he pulled that off. Hard head, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, he cut himself up pretty bad, was bleeding, and just didn't, wrapped it up, went to bed. type of thing. I mean, in hindsight, that could have killed him. And it wasn't until the next morning that one of the cuts, just kind of bled all night. That my mom and us, I didn't even know what happened. I woke up the next morning, and by that time, my dad had been to the hospital. He was just one of these stubborn guys that just was like, you
Yeah.
know, I'll walk through a pane of glass and get cut, and yep, just put some band-aids on it, wrap it, I'm good type of guy. So he just didn't. He probably had warning signs before the heart thing. He just didn't listen to them and shouldn't. So again, the other thing go to the doctor, go to get regular checkups, prioritize your health. Prioritizing your health doesn't mean just eating right, trying to be healthy that regard. It's also getting checked out, doing things, preventative medicine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that had an effect on me. And that, another thing that I guess if we're continuing on sort of struggles and stuff like that on the health topic, there's just been a few things. The next one was, our son. I mentioned he has special needs. He has Down syndrome. We learned uh, that during pregnancy, we learned during a sonogram that he had a heart condition, and that kind of, not to go down that rabbit hole, but that also is a heart defect. This particular heart defect is a marker or a precursor. Also, a lot of kids with Down syndrome are born with that and have to have a heart repair. So at 6 months of age, he was born. He was, pregnancy went to term. The birth was fine. Thank God, everything worked out fine. But at 6 months of age, he had to get enough strength and weight on him because his heart had this massive hole in the middle. The four chambers weren't fully formed, so there's just
Mm.
it was not, no pun intended, hitting on all cylinders, so to speak. So at 6 months of age, my son Ethan had to have open heart surgery and was in a hospital for, I think, 10 days. The ICU. I mean, it's just another sort of reminder of, it put a lot in perspective about just priorities and what's important in life. And whenever I was having a stressful or really bad day or whatever, I just sometimes go back and remember certain things. And those are two things in my life: my dad passing at a young age, and our son. And again, he's fine now. He gets checked every 2 years, but those are just things in life that just kind of remind you what's important. And sometimes don't sweat the small stuff. It could be a whole lot worse. We were grateful for him coming through that and all that. It's just those are big sort of things in my life, Ricky, that have continued to kind of allow me some perspective on what's important. And anytime I feel like I'm getting in my own head and just worrying about maybe stuff I can't control, or sweating the small stuff, as they say,
Yeah.
those are things that help recenter me. There's other things too. I mean, obviously family, just trying to remember what's really important. But that would be some, I guess, if you will call it, struggles. And I've had my own sort of health struggles that I've gone through. Um, Nothing life threatening, certainly life altering to some degree, but um, it just, I'm just grateful that I'm at a point in my life, and it has strengthened, frankly, my resolve to. I want to shift. As much as I look back on it and say that I wasn't at the time, um, I was kind of living to work, and I
Yeah.
want to shift to work to live. I want to change that in my life to. And again, I'm at a point in my life where I think I can prioritize that and work on that. And that's why I'm just being exceedingly sort of, my wife will tell me I'm being overly picky, but I want something that's right. That's gonna, I want to put ourselves in a situation where, we can travel, we can do certain things, and I can still have a rewarding career and do things I want to do, but it's got to be on my terms because, um, you literally, this is cliche, but I mean, you could be gone tomorrow, and
Yeah.
what are those loved ones around you going to remember? Oh, he was a really hard worker. He was, you know, he constantly was at work, was constantly stressed or whatever. And if you just don't take the time to prioritize to do the things and to be with the people you love, and um, yeah, it's just, yeah, I feel like life every now and then sends me a reminder that I need to recenter. And certainly these last 6 months have kind of caused me to do that to some degree as well. Not just with the highs of the wedding and the daughter off to college, but I've had a few little um, health things that have just caused me to, okay, I gotta, here's the other reminder somebody is sending me. Life is telling me I gotta recenter again. So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you mentioned not being able to say bye to your dad, right?
Yeah.
So if you were able to actually say bye to him, what would you tell him?
Oh my gosh. I would thank him. I would I would hope, look, in a perfect world, Ricky, it would
Mhm.
be what I know today.
Yeah.
So I'd tell him, hey, he wanted a daughter so bad, and he got three boys. So, and I was the third, so I guess I was his last hope. So, but now that I have two daughters, and he would have had two granddaughters, I would just tell him that these granddaughters would have just doted over him and loved him, and it, he was so good with other kids and friends of ours. I mean, he would have just, hey, I got you your granddaughters, Dad, and there's not a day goes by that I don't think about you and how you might, you know how you're missing out, but I know you're still in their lives, and that you
Mm.
help shape them, and the wisdom he imparted on me, you know, um, 23 years of my life before he left, I still use to this day. And I try to teach, my kids some of the things he tried to instill in me. Um, and I don't follow. So I mean, he was a career. There were times we didn't see him. He was just, work was first in many aspects, and so I'm trying to not necessarily do that. I want to be there for my kids and that sort of thing. So, but I would mostly just tell him thank you, and you've got you know beautiful grandkids, and they love you. So yeah,
It's beautiful. Love it.
yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So it looks like we already talked about the struggle question. So the next one is, which you kind of mentioned a little bit, but what are you currently going through that's either positive or negative?
Well, we talked about. I'll just briefly, I guess, expand on the negative. I mean, it's nothing huge, but it's another one of those, again, sort of what's important in life moments. Actually, right before the wedding in October, um, I rolled my ankle really bad and tore ligaments in it, and I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna have to walk down the aisle, or I'm gonna have to get in a scooter down the aisle, because it was just, and I wish I could say, Ricky, that I was doing a crossover dribble, hitting a jumper. I do enjoy playing basketball, but No, it was literally just we were out getting some ice cream with my son one night, and I stepped off and didn't see it. Stepped off and caught my ankle on a curb, and
Mm.
so nothing super sexy around how I injured it. But I mean, that was it happens, right? It's no big deal. It's
Yeah.
just the timing of it kind of sucked, and I was kind of a woe is me, but it took me a lot longer. This took me. I mean, this had me out of commission out of commission. I was dealing with it for a good 8 weeks, just trying to, and I
Hmm.
probably didn't do myself any favors at the wedding and the after party, just overdoing it on it. But just took a while to heal. This one did. I had rolled ankles in the past playing sports, but this one was particularly bad. I thought I broke it. I heard a pop, but turns out it was just severely strained and some torn ligaments, partially torn ligaments. So, um, fortunately, I'm over all that. But then, you know, the other thing is, then in November, right? It was either right before or right after Thanksgiving. And I do have some family history of eye problems. My mom is unfortunately blind, fully blind in one eye and 80% blind in the other. She has wet macular degeneration. I don't have that, knock on wood. At least I don't have any signs of that. But I had an episode happen with my right eye that just really kind of freaked me out a little bit. There's this gel everybody has in their cornea, and as you get older, the gel can kind of just not want to move as easily, and it pulled away from the inside of my retina, and I partially tore my retina, and I was seeing these flashing lights, and I was just like, oh God, what's happening in my right eye? So after a couple exams and tests and stuff, they determined I that's what was happening, which does happen. It's fairly common in older people as you get older. Not everybody experiences it, and then I had to, coincidentally, at the same time, because of that, it partially tore my retina, and I've got this sort of moving, they call them floaters, but mine's
Hmm.
in my right eye now. I've got this kind of a big cloudy thing in the middle, and I'm just gonna have to learn to deal with it. That's something I'm gonna have to live with. But they went in, did some laser treatments, repaired the tear so that doesn't get any worse. And Ricky, for the first time, because knowing my mom has had problems, I just was like, gosh, here I am. I kind of had a pity party, if I'm being honest, right around the holidays. It was kind of rough for me. It was the first time and again, I was over the ankle thing. It just, these things happen back to back. And I'm just like, geez, is this what turning 55 was like? So I'll admit, I kind of had, for the first time in my life, I had a bit of I got in my head, and I was having a bit of I guess you can call it depression. I was just down. I was, having a pity party, and it was the holidays. Maybe that added something to it. It was just like, I felt like, for the first time in my life, I just felt like, God, my body feels like it's falling apart. And looking back on that now, I think, well, that's ridiculous. I just, shit happens, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And I'm over it. But what I will say, it did positive for me. Again, recenter, refocus. It strengthened my resolve to put certain priorities in my life, obviously. But I had kind of I mean, if I'm being honest, I wasn't working out as regularly. I wasn't watching my weight. I wasn't watching what I was eating. I was probably drinking too much. I mean, I kind of let certain things slip. None of those, I believe, and my doctor can confirm, none of those contributed to. Now, the eye thing, you can do certain things, like if you're a smoker, if you're overweight, or stuff like that. None of those contributed to that. That's just plain genetics, unfortunately for me. But because of that, I basically turned the page literally January 1st. My New Year's resolution was stop feeling sorry for yourself. Your body's still in great shape. You have, there's some things you need to get back to doing more regularly. And since January 1, I can say that I've refocused fully back on my health, eating right, getting back to doing some strength training, getting back to doing some cardio. We, we're playing golf periodically. I'm going to be in a bocce ball league. Who knew?
Nice.
That's not the most cardio, but we're also joining a pickleball league here in the next, I think it starts in May. So I'm recommitting to getting involved in as much things. I'm trying to find maybe a group of people. I've got a friend of mine, his name's Kevin as well, that gets on his mountain bike and does all the trails near us.
Uh-huh.
And he's got these e-bikes that he keeps trying to tell me I need to try. They're not fully electric. I mean, you could fully electric it, but it's you pedal most of the time, but it's just there to help you, give you a little boost when you need it, type of thing. That sounds like something I need so in my life. So I'm trying to work out a time when he and I can go riding. He can take me on one of his electric bikes. And so anyway, I'm just the thing about it is it's brought an awareness to me for the first time in my life. You got to take care of your body physically. Not the first time. I knew that. First time in my life that you also have to take care of your mental aspect of it. And I was in a pretty bad headspace there during that. And so I'm also doing some things to really make sure I'm trying to stay positive and trying to watch my words and really watch, and my wife's help, and we're kind of helping each other on that. And so yeah, that is something that I guess I could say is a negative, but I'm turning it into a positive.
I like that. Yeah, it's we need those reminders sometimes. Sometimes we get kind of we kind of lose track on health or things of that nature till
Yeah.
stuff kind of is taken away from us for a little bit, and then we kind of have to recenter and focus.
Yep.
But also e-bikes, you totally need to ride those e-bikes. I
Yeah.
had a buddy. It's funny. I didn't think so. I had a buddy that was like, "Hey, you want to ride some e-bikes?" This was a few years ago, and I was like, "I guess." And I just like, I mean, it's a bike, it's an electric bike. Okay, whatever. Dude, it was a blast. I don't even know how to explain it, but we just rode around Kansas City to downtown just on these e-bikes. And
Yeah.
man, there's something special about just pedaling away. And then all of a sudden this hill comes up and you're still going 20 something miles per hour up this hill
Yeah.
pedaling. And it's awesome.
And
It's a blast.
it has settings, I guess, where it could just be, a passive assist. So it's not,
Yep.
because I don't want to necessarily cheat. I may need to at the end of a long ride, but I'm still, and I used to road bike a lot. I used to do, as part of Prosoco, we used to have an MS 150 team, and we used to go out and ride long rides and stuff like that. So I enjoyed it because my knees, I used to be a runner and my knees can't handle that anymore. But yeah, I mean, but damn, these things are expensive, Ricky, or they can be. So
Yeah, they are.
he's got the ones that have like these all kinds of dampeners, and because he rides these tough trails. I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
gonna do that. I may get off road a time or two, but I'm not. I don't need the stuff that takes me through some difficult trails. But I mean, those things are. I mean, he's spending several $1,000s on these things. He goes, you could get one, and you can get. He goes, I would encourage you to get a used one if you can. He's supposed to help me with it all. I don't know, so I'll just let him figure it out. But yeah, I'd really like to
Uh-huh.
do that because I do. And where we live, there's just all kinds of these mountain trails and beautiful places to go ride a bike, and I need to do that. That's my my interim was when we still lived back in Kansas. Is I got a stationary bike because you can't ride it well, you could, but I wasn't committed to riding it 12 months out of the year outside. So I still use the stationary bike, but I want to get on one that gets me outside now that I'm here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'll follow up with you in a couple months then, and make sure
Yeah.
you're doing your e-biking.
All right. All right.
Okay. We okay. So so next question. So who is someone who's changed your life that doesn't know it?
So it's a gentleman. So before coming to Prosoco, I worked, and I think I mentioned this. Right out of college, I got into the financial world, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. I was either going to be a trader, because my dad worked. Again, it was sort of, hey, my dad was doing this grain trading, working at the Kansas City Board of Trade. Uh, I was the Wolf of Wall Street. I was just like, I want to get into finance. I want to get into that. And so, I started working downtown Kansas City at a something called a transfer agency at the time. They were handling all the financial transactions, the transaction processing of trades, mutual funds, and stuff like that. There's a company called DST. It's no longer around. It got bought out a long time ago. But anyway, my boss, my longtime boss and mentor, I still call him. His name is John Vaughn. Um, he taught me so much. And there's so many things I used, and it was more about managing people and just um, trying to get the most out of the people around you, surrounding yourself with good talent, teaching them everything they can to go on and succeed and be to basically replace you. He had a saying, I want to surround myself with people that will replace me easily someday.
Yep.
And some people are terrified of that. They're just like, hell no. That's job security is surrounding myself with a bunch of idiots. And but, I mean, that's extreme, but and um, he had a saying called polish your own sphere that stuck with me. And what he meant by that was just work on yourself, you know, certainly early on in your career too. Work on yourself because you can't control what others around you are doing necessarily. Just focus on what you're doing and being the best, polishing your own sphere, and everything else will kind of fall in line with that. And I kind of took that certainly much earlier on in my career because then I kind of translated it into helping others polish their sphere type of thing. But he had so many sayings that have stuck with me over the time, or at least not sayings necessarily, but just concepts and the way I carried those into my professional life. I'm trying to think, is there anything in this person? Maybe I've carried some things like that in my personal life too, and I just don't even know about it, Ricky. But yeah, that was a guy that still to this day periodically. It's really only about once a year now. Just exchange greetings, but he taught me an awful lot just about the business world and particularly the management of the people management side of things because he was an exceptional leader and I just think got the most out of me and got the most out of everybody that worked for him. I never heard anybody say a bad thing about him in the time that I worked with him, and that was for about 6 or 7 years. So yeah, and he probably knows it because I've told him before. I go, man, I just told him once. I said, man, you meant a lot to me in my career, and I owe a lot to you today. So he probably knows it, but maybe he doesn't know the extent of it.
Yeah. Well, maybe he needs to watch this podcast.
Yeah, maybe so. John Vaughn. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So next question. So what's a skill or talent you could share with us?
Oh my goodness. I'm struggling with this one. Well, I mean, just well, I mentioned one of them, cooking.
Mhm.
I guess it's a talent or a skill.
Hmm.
It's really more of a passion. I've always enjoyed cooking. I don't know. I just have always, maybe I can credit my mom for that because I would sort of stick around with her in the kitchen, and maybe it rubbed off on me. But um, my two older brothers really, well, they cook. I shouldn't say they don't cook, but it didn't really stick with them as much as it did with me. But um, yeah, and I think I'm pretty good at it. I don't know. Uh, I just enjoy, and I enjoy taking new recipes and trying them out and cooking healthy things. And because cooking your own foods, you know it's healthy because you're putting your own ingredients in it. So yeah, I enjoy that. I think that's my skill. It's not necessarily a hidden skill because I do it so often. But yeah, I don't know. That's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah. Okay. So if you were to invite me over, what would
Yes.
you cook me?
Okay, I am ready for this because my current skill and something I've been doing for a while that has been hard to master, and a lot of people, and I screwed up a lot of dishes, um, is risotto. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
risotto, which is essentially rice, it's just a difficult rice to make and to do it to where it doesn't either overcook and become sort of this mushy cream of oatmeal mess. And if you undercook it, it becomes sort of hard to eat and grainy. And yeah, it's just not, it's a refined thing to do. Certainly not impossible, but it takes a lot of patience to make it. And you got to really baby the dish. But I would make you, I love pairing that with seafood. So it'd probably
Mhm.
be something called, I call a champagne scallop risotto dish. So I hope
Ah.
you like seafood. If not, I can put
Uh-huh.
chicken on it. That's the beauty of risotto. It goes with a lot of proteins. It tends to go with white proteins, white fish or
Uh-huh.
white meats. I did salmon the other night with it, so a good dish like that. But yeah, that would
Okay.
be what I would make you. Do you like scallops?
I can tell you I've never had scallops, but I like seafood.
Okay, there's all kinds of different things we can put on it then. So,
Well, I would be up for trying it. I made a pact with myself 5 years ago that I was like, anything, any food dish I will try at least once or twice. So I've
okay,
just been waiting for the right opportunity to try scallops because I heard you have to have good ones.
yep.
What I've heard.
And you can really screw up. So that's the sort of the really double jeopardy thing about the dish. You have to get the rice, the risotto timing just right. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
scallops are the same way. You can easily overcook a scallop to where it's rubbery and chewy,
Uh-huh.
and then you can undercook it to where it's just not. It's sort of grainy. It's weird. So there's a very finite. Anyway, your rule though, I have that rule, and I've taught my girls, my kids that about food. You can't say you don't like something until you've at least tried it. You have to try it. How can you
Uh-huh.
tell me you don't like something if you don't try it? And my kids would say, well, it smells funny or it looks funny. Or, okay, well,
Uh-huh.
it could look funny and taste great. So um, so yeah,
Very true.
that's a rule I've lived by my entire life. I'll try every food item once.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how
That's
you
awesome.
can accurately form an opinion of something.
I agree. No, I
Yeah,
totally agree with that.
yeah,
So, and it's funny, I was a picky eater my whole life. So that's why at that point in my life, I was like, I'm just going to try anything. And I've
yeah.
found some good foods. By doing like, I tend to still gravitate towards the same basic stuff I've
Sure.
always eaten. But for the most part, like, yeah, I've had some dishes. I'm just like, this is awesome. This is really good. I would have never tried it,
And
past 5 years ago.
and that's the beauty of, to me, cooking, because and you have to be adventurous. You can cook your own food and cook the same three dishes over and over and over again.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I feel like part of food for me is really the discovery of trying something new. It's great.
Uh-huh.
I don't always like everything new I try. I'm be the first one to admit that. But it does, it does, it opens up your palate and it opens up your, because all food comes from somewhere. And if you really allow yourself, because I won't just try a food item. Let's say there's, I don't know, like a, an item like a chicken shawarma from Turkey or something made in a Turkish pot. That's, it just, I like the whole story behind it. I like hearing the story behind it. I don't need it every time I go to dine. I don't need that
Uh-huh.
story. But when you try something new and you learn about, oh, well, this came from this country and they used to make it in this manner, and we make it in a traditional manner or whatever. Or even, my grandmother, this is my great grandmother's recipe that I passed down. There's a You need to watch a movie. You may or may not appreciate it. I think it's on Netflix. It's called Nonas. The Nonas.
Okay.
Let me look this up, because it's about, yeah, Nonas, and it's
Okay.
got Vince Vaughn, Susan Sarandon, Vince Vaughn. He's okay. I mean, I didn't pick this movie because of him, but it's called Nonas, and it
Okay.
just celebrates. It celebrates the history. I won't spoil it for you, but you'll get this in the trailer if you watch the trailer. It's basically, um, it's a guy who's tried his hand at restaurants and not been very successful, but he always goes home to have his mother's, which in turn was his grandmother's, which in turn was, his great grandmother's.
Hmm.
He loves his grandmother's cooking, and so he invites these three or four grandmothers to open a new restaurant with him, and it's based on a true story, an Italian restaurant, and it's a feel good movie, but it kind of encapsulates sort of how food is more than about food. It's something that brings people together. You sit down very often if you're preparing food. Uh, you're preparing it sometimes for people, and it gives you a chance to sit down. And I don't know about you, but I always made sure that we had food at a table. We sat at a dining room table and we sat together, and we didn't always have the most interesting conversations, but you can't have a conversation if you're not all sitting at a table. And so food brings people together. So does wine, incidentally. So
There you
anyway,
go.
that's a good movie. You should watch it.
Okay.
It was on Netflix. I think it still is.
Okay. I wrote it down, so I'll check it out for
All right.
sure.
All right.
Okay. So next question. So what are you learning about currently that you could teach us?
Oh, geez. Well, I'm always learning about wine. I feel like I've beaten that dead horse though on this podcast. Um, and it's interesting. The wine industry is actually kind of not doing very well. Less and less people are just drinking in general. I've learned.
Heard that. Yeah.
So it's not just wine that's seeing declining numbers. It's a lot of spirits, but so I've kind of been deep diving into the industry and its effects and things like climate change and just sort of the hardships of the wine and spirits industry and how companies are adapting. Um, what am I learning? So there is a book that I just can't put down right now that I'm learning about. I mean, I've recently taken some classes on AI, and I've been learning lots of things. I'm a I think I told you this, and I'm sorry I never made it to one of your book clubs, Ricky, but I am a pretty strong, voracious reader. Um, Most of my books tend to center around self-help and like business stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm reading one, in fact, it's right here. It's called The Growth Gears, using a market-based framework to drive business success. And the reason I can't put it down is because a lot of the concepts in it are not, I know a lot of the concepts, um, or I've understood those concepts, like market research and competition and pricing, and it's really about sort of how you grow your business. But I've never read a book that puts it together in such a way, in an order and in simple terms, that just clicks. It's just like, oh, where was this 15 years ago in my life?
Mm,
Because I've done bits and pieces, and essentially there's three gears, growth gears, and there's no, the symbolism of the gears is apropos because, it's a gear. If one gear is not turning, the other gears aren't going to turn. It's a
yep.
symbiotic relationship, and the first gear is basically insights, is learning, is just understanding yourself, your company, what you do well, what you don't do well, like a SWOT analysis. I've done
Uh-huh.
100 SWOT analysis over my 30 plus years of being in business. But so you who are you? What do you do well? What do you do a SWOT analysis. Your customers, who are they? Understand your customers, understand your competition. All of that over time I've done a time or two, but then understanding how those three aspects relate with each other and in that first gear, and then how do you take that and practically apply it to then creating a strategy?
Uh-huh.
It was those connected dots that I hadn't, and I'm sure look, if people who have written books on business are watching this, they're like, well, shit, Kevin, I wrote that. I'm not saying that books haven't been written like this that
Yeah, yeah.
don't explain it. This book, by far, and like I said, I've read 100 or more books on sort of how to grow your business, how to put together a good business plan, and how to, understand market strategies, how to do marketing, how to do sales. No book I've read has put it together for me personally in a manner that is so simple to understand and so easy to go execute. This book has re-energized me to the point where I got to find the next company I want to go
Uh-huh.
implement this in. And
Nice.
and and it's just, I, it's a small book, and so I just got it last Wednesday or Thursday, and I haven't had every waking moment to read it, but I mean, I'm gonna finish it tonight, and I just started it yesterday. So it just it speaks to me. It makes perfect sense, and so that's why, yeah, that's what I'm currently learning. And again, it's nothing. The concepts not aren't necessarily new in it. It's just delivering it in a way that makes sense, and then the second gear is how do you then create a strategy, a market strategy. If you're a products company or services company, how do you apply what you learn in gear one to your products? And um, what metrics do you need to put in place for that strategy? And then gear three is execution. And it's just so simple and is
Uh-huh.
written in such a way that I want to go try it. I want to get it working in practice. And I would highly, I don't know if you're still doing, I don't know if this is even a candidate for your book clubs, but it ought to be something that maybe the executive team there consider if they haven't.
Yeah,
Knowing Jake, he's probably already read it.
probably.
But
But I did take the notes down because I'd like to look into that.
yeah, it's
But
Art Saxby and Pete Hayes are the two authors. And honestly, I'll tell you how I stumbled upon this. So one of the things I've been thinking about doing, and I've actually done it with just sort of a with a friend's business of mine, and I'm just kind of consulting with him a little bit. I'd like to see if I can get into consulting, and they call it fractional leadership. Um, and there's a guy that used to that I know and through Prosoco, and he used to run two businesses, and he now works as a consultant, and he works with a company called Chief Outsiders, which is kind of an unfortunate company name, but what they do is they're a consulting firm that um, has a network of people that were former executives at companies that
Hmm.
you can small to mid-sized businesses can reach out to and say, hey, we've hit the $5 million in sales mark. We've just plateaued and we can't seem to break through, and we're wanting to expand into this market or that market. And we need some help. And so I was talking with him a couple of weeks ago, just about that company, what he does, and just, networking and getting ideas. And he gave me that. He says, you ought to read the growth gears, because that's what they base their company's sort of growth strategy and model off of. And so so it was a recommendation from a
Huh?
person I trust. He's run a couple big companies, and he kind of said the same thing. He goes, it's so simple, it's complex. And I go, what do you mean by that? He goes, it's so simple, yet so few people have put it all together in a way that makes sense. So it has to be complex, but these two authors have kind of put it together in a way that, again, makes sense. So,
And that's a gift, because that's the point, right? Is to be able to make stuff digestible. And when you can find an author in a book like that, it's
yep,
phenomenal.
yep,
That's what we did with actually with the book club. We did Atomic Habits. Have you read that?
yes, yep,
That was another one of those books I thought that was put together extremely well. Very easy to just set habits. It's such a simple process.
yeah,
Not easy, but simple.
yeah.
So
And
yeah.
one more thing, this book takes, in fact, it references, um, uh, I'm drawing a blank on. Oh, the book is called Good to Great. A lot of business leaders have read that book. I think Jim Collins
Uh-huh.
used to, I forget the companies he was with. Anyway, that's was like the first book I was ever told to read. And I've read it a couple times, although it's been a number of years. But that book didn't, and that book said a lot of the same things. And they even referenced that in this book. They're like, yeah, there's a few principles we've taken from the book Good to Great. But again, they've improved upon it and made it in a digestible way and Good to Great never did that with me. It never, at least to me, put it in terms that I felt like I could put it all together to go execute. So
Yeah. Well, I'll check that out for sure. So okay, so next question. So what are you doing for fun?
travel, I,
Hmm.
California is a big state. I've traveled outside the state, but we were just talking about that again at my sort of New Year's resolution after I got out of my funk. My wife and I said, there's so many national parks and beautiful places in California that we haven't been to. And many of them are within driving distance to just do short little day trips. So been doing a lot of that, been getting around,
Hmm.
seeing the beautiful landscapes, and from the beaches, the ocean, to the redwoods and the trees, to the beautiful national parks, to the mountains, to the snow, all that stuff. So I've been traveling um, quite a bit, reconnecting with California, um, getting back out, doing more exercises. I'm really looking forward to this bocce ball league. I went to a few of their games last year, and these people take
Hmm.
it very seriously.
I'm sure they do.
All of it with, of course, either a glass of wine or a beer in one hand, but it looks like a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to that, and just, I know it may not seem like fun, but learning. I'm learning Spanish. That's the other thing. I've been taking some online Spanish classes through an app. Nothing too crazy. Doing that, and of course, for me, which is fun, been reconnecting with many of the wineries here and going and doing tastings. So, um, but travel is my big thing this year. I want to do more of. We're going overseas this fall, to the UK, with some friends. KU football is playing in a football game over there, crazily enough, against Arizona State. And so I'm a big time KU, of course, alumni. So, I jumped at the chance with my, uh, new ethos of traveling more. We're like, hey, what better opportunity? And so a few friends of mine back in Lawrence are going to meet us over there, and we're getting a Airbnb or whatever, bed and breakfast, something like that. And
Uh,
we're going to then tour and sightsee, throughout the UK and maybe other places. I don't know. I'm not really setting the itinerary. I'm letting the wives do that. But yeah, that's
and
my
that sounds
idea
like
of
a
fun.
blast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've been having a lot of fun. Sounds like.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I do want to get,
Yeah.
I mean, parts of work are fun. I mean, work is fun for me. I got to say that the right way.
Mhm.
You know, you got to find something you're really passionate about. And this next chapter of my life, I think the fun is taking concepts and stuff that I've learned, and I'm certainly not saying I've mastered them, but taking them and applying them to my next career or adventure from a professional standpoint, to me, is going to be fun because I'm not going to
Good.
accept a role that's not fun. So,
100%
yep,
like that. Okay. So this is one of my favorite questions. So we've covered a bunch of topics today.
yep.
So if you were to write a story of your life from when you were born to now, what would that story be called?
Well, I took the approach. I was kind of thinking of my most recent, um,
Yeah.
time period, so I didn't think of all the way back.
Well, let's just do it now.
Well, just with
Story
what I'm
now.
kind of going through now,
Yeah.
if you had to kind of write a story, is that, I
Mhm.
don't know, something like second chapter, the second verse, the
Okay.
encore, the second act, something along those lines, because, um, one of the things that you I kind of want to prove to myself and to others that you're never too old to kind of change careers, change what you're doing, write a new chapter in your life. And I feel like I've tried to teach my kids that too, because we've moved a few times. And, I grew up never having left a, you know, 10 square mile area for the most part my entire life. So, um, just, yeah. Um, if the title of the book was something, I'm hoping it's, something along the lines of the encore or the second chapter or the next chapter. I don't know. Um, I'd say if it included the whole life, it's just, I don't know, it's corny, but resiliency or gratefulness, just always trying to remind yourself that you got to live life to the fullest, and,
Yeah.
work to live, not live to work.
I like that. It's funny. This is the first time it just reminded me of something. You said the encore, and it made me think of music. We haven't even talked about music at all, and that's a big part of you.
I'm I think I'm going to a concert here. Well, I'm going to a few things in May. So can you see it over my shoulder? On my screen, it's very narrow, but,
I mean, I
uh,
can see something over your shoulder. I just can't really tell what it is.
you see that?
Yeah, I see the mirror,
Oh,
and then
it's not a mirror. Anyway, something called,
okay, yeah,
it's something called Bottle Rock. So it's
okay,
a framed art piece.
mm,
Every May out here around Memorial Day, there's a 3-day music festival, called Bottle Rock. You can look it up. Um, it doesn't contain the types of artists I know you listen to. It's more poppy, more folky. It can even contain some rap artists and stuff like that. But um, I am going to that in May, and my daughter really wants. So I think you know this. I've got a very wide music genre. I listen to a lot of chill electronic DJ type music. Like I told you, one of my favorite
Mhm.
music acts, and they actually do play musical instruments, but it's a lot of electronic is Odessa. However, my daughter, I've gotten my kids into that type of music, and my daughter, there's a group called Rufus Du Sol that
Okay.
is coming to San Diego and going to be playing at their big baseball stadium down there. And she wants to go to it, and so do I. So we're going to try to make that happen here in May, um, mid-May. So a couple concerts I'm going to, but music's still very much an important part of my life. Anytime I'm working out, of course, I've got music on. I put on music in the house. Um, it's in my car. It's often the background. It's the background of our life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't say that I've come. I don't know. Is there anything good? I stumbled across uh, on social media. I stumbled across a really cool kind of gritty. They called it like a southern rock. It's a weird genre. Got harmonicas in it. It's almost like bayou music, but it's mostly AI made. I know that's
Yep.
controversial.
Yep.
Um, so it's scary and frightening all at the same time, but damn, it's good. I'm like, and it's called, you might look this up, Prompt, PROMPT Genix, Prompt Genix,
Mhm.
the Gravel Road Grooves. And it's one guy, and yes, he uses AI, but he's quick to tell you it's not 100% AI because he does play instruments, and what he does is he samples them and then puts them into. I think he's got a YouTube page or a TikTok or Instagram page, but he's also on Apple Music and Spotify. And his name suggests it's because that's code. Prompt Genix. He's
Yep.
writing code to create a lot of the music. Um, and when I say I've been listening to that like hit me in the last week, and I've been kind of listening to some of the tracks, and it's just what it's done is it's got me. I typically then take that and go down the rabbit hole of learning about it. Well, how is this happening? What are they
Mhm.
doing with it? Are they actually sampling someone's real music and stealing it, or are they creating their own thing? And of course, there's the whole gamut of everything
Yep.
happening out there. But legitimate artists, which I think this Prompt Genix is, don't quote me on that because I haven't done enough research. I say legitimate artists. They're not just stealing other people's music. I guess you could say, well, if it's AI, it's going out and it's stealing everybody's music, but it's coming up with something new, which is essentially
Mhm.
what every artist does. They have influences, right?
Mhm.
You grow up with, hey, I was listening to Bob Dylan and The Doors and Pink Floyd, and so that's kind of influenced what type of music I make now. And I came across this because I have been taking some classes, online classes on AI, and one of them was AI's sort of the ethics, right, of AI,
Yeah.
and that's a big concern for a lot of people. And the music industry is just one of them. Of course, the Oscars were just the other night, and there was a lot of buzz around how what impact is AI having on the movie industry too. So, uh, but that's how I stumbled across them. You might check it out. It's pretty amazing just
Yeah.
to hear it. And there's AI. Now there's all kinds of genres. This is just a sort of southern gravel road, bayou, bluesy Um, there's metal, there's classic rock, there's pop. I mean, everything. If you want to find it, that's AI generated is out there.
Yep, I've experimented with that a little bit,
Yep.
which you might appreciate. So what I did for fun this past year is I took all my metal music that I've written
Yep.
and I ran it through AI and converted it to basically EDM female singing music,
Nice.
and
Right up
it
my
turned.
alley.
Hey, it was actually legitly. It turned out pretty good. I'll have to send you a link.
You'll
It's
have to send me a
funny
link because
because
I'm sure that did it surprise you?
dude, it did surprise me. So I kept seeing advertisements for it, and I was like, okay, let me just dabble around and see what this is like. And yeah, you literally upload your song, and then it gives you two options every time. And I used the Suno app, is what I used. And it took it. You have to put your lyrics in, otherwise it will not. It'll mess up words like crazy. But you
Yeah.
put your lyrics in. You have the song there as a basic, and you can adjust it how wild you want it to go,
Yep.
essentially,
Yep.
which I just kept the settings pretty default. You put your prompts in what you want. So I put a lot of prompts in of different genre, style, whatever.
Yep.
And yeah, in just a few minutes, it'd pump out two tracks. You'd listen to them, and sometimes they'd be good. And then sometimes there were some songs that I was like, nope, didn't get it. Nope, 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 nope. And, go through about 15 different ones. And then finally, you're
Yeah.
like, okay, this one will work, because I wanted to release it. But then again, same thing as I wanted to be upfront about the AI. Like, hey, this is AI enhanced. This is AI converted music, but all the original tracks are on
Yeah.
Spotify, and I wrote them all essentially. So, but it was really fascinating. It showed me that we're way further along on that than I thought we were. And I did the same thing for the national sales meeting this past national sales meeting. Is I had for our music at the sales meeting, I had everybody send me their favorite genre and a bio about themselves, and didn't tell them what it was for. And then so they gave me their genre, and I copy and pasted their bio into ChatGPT and said, make a song in this style out of this bio. Did that, copied it over to Suno, and made songs out of it. So the whole playlist was everybody's music, and it was pretty cool because people would be hearing it. They're like, what? And it's like, yeah, like that's
Yeah.
literally you. And it just blew their mind.
So yeah, and the other thing I've learned, I'd love to hear that, by the way. Send it to me.
Okay.
The other thing I've learned is there's another AI, and I don't know. I mean, it falls under the category of AI, but I don't. There's layers of AI, right? AI, you could say, like I could go out to a different program and start typing in a bunch of prompts of the type of
Mhm.
music I wanted to generate. It would kick out a song. I know that exists. There's another guy that I became aware of that it's a it's a computer program that he basically composes music on, and it's like all these different tracks, and he just keeps layering one track on top of another, and here you're bringing in drums, and here you're bringing in horns and all that stuff. So,
Mhm.
and people have probably been doing this for a while, but you know this is somebody who's got a talent for composing. It's no different than what Mozart did with an orchestra. How are the horns going to come in here? How are the, but it's all sampled. It's all computer generated music.
Mhm.
He doesn't have an instrument he can, I guess he could, but, and it's just fascinating to see how songs can be made just by taking samples or saying, I want piano track and here's the track it's like a whole new world out there for how music is being generated, and frankly it's creating music at the speed of light, really. And I think I think what's going to happen is I think artists, traditional artists that go into a studio with different instruments and record, whether they know it or not, the people who are the what do you call it, the sound editors,
Mhm.
they're using AI. It's not creating fake music, but they're using AI tools to optimize maybe where that vocal lands on this or that. to help them. I think there's going to be, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think there's going to be maybe a blend of things that help the traditional music people maybe be more successful at creating music. I don't know. That's the hope. Of course, there's going to be fake music. You can't you can't deny that. And then there becomes this whole thing of rights, music rights, who owns it, and stuff like that. But I don't know how we got down that path. But um, oh yeah, because I ran into that prompt
Yeah,
Gen
yeah,
X person.
yeah,
What's your what do you have new that you or anything different music wise you could share with me?
Oh, music.
Yeah. Are you
I
still
mean,
making music yourself?
yeah, still making music. Actually, I'm in the process right now of I got the group back together, and we're looking at doing some performances again. But in the meantime, we're actually working on some new music. So, which I haven't actually recorded anything in quite a while. Besides 2 years ago, I recorded vocals for some old music that we had, just that we didn't ever finish. And then, yeah, and then besides the AI music, where I was just like, this is pretty sweet. Let's take all my songs that I've ever recorded and let's run them through it and make just a fun little,
Yeah.
almost like a remix album. That's how I
Sure.
kind of took it. Um, and did that. But yeah, right now I'm actually in the middle of working on a song. So I'm trying to do the goal long term is to make a concept trilogy album series where it tells a whole story throughout three different albums.
Hmm.
So it's something I've never done before, embarked on, but I just had the idea one day, actually driving back from work, and was just one of those ideas, car ideas, and was like, hey, that's not bad.
Yeah.
And then just started kind of working through it, and yeah, so it's going to be fun. I'll see what I can do with it, but
You'll have
yeah,
to send me that once you got it wrapped up.
for sure, it's going to take
Yeah.
some time. I think it's going to be an ongoing project, but yeah, when we get the first couple songs finished or the first album done, yeah, I'll definitely hit you up and
Yeah.
let you check it out. So it'll be fun. But
Yeah,
that's
that's
it.
the other thing people are saying too, that AI is no longer are you going to need to go into a recording studio and work with a sound editor guy or a whole, you're going to see some of these smaller artists that are still making creative music, but they're able to edit it themselves and publish it themselves, which I think is exciting. Um,
Yeah, which is an avenue that I'm really wanting to dig into because all the old stuff I always recorded myself too, but this was with, old school recording equipment and not quite to the professional level. So the fact that we have those tools, like that's where I'm going to be digging
yeah,
into next is how do I make professional sounding quality from what I want to put out there.
yep, yep. How do you edit it? Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
cool. What does your daughter think of? Is she a headbanger like you? What's her
Oh,
musical taste?
she's had her spurts, I'll put it that way, where she's
Okay.
she's like I talk her into it, and then after a while, it's just she ends up liking her mom's music. So a lot of Taylor Swift and a lot of stuff like
Uh,
that. Which is fine. But there's still a couple bands here and there that are good, like crossover bands where it's like it's metal, but it's enough to where she's like, I could do this. I like this, Dad.
yeah,
So yeah.
it was one of the rewarding things I found with both my daughters. Is we never really saw eye to eye on musical tastes for most of their young, you know, adult lives, even though I exposed them to all my music. Uh, but to see them, like Tegan, my youngest, she was, you know, this was a while ago back when she was in high school. She was playing like Journey, um, um, God, I'm drawing a blank on the name of it, but some of the old tunes that I used to listen to. Um, her Fleetwood Mac is one of her favorite bands, and
Uh-huh.
I'm like, well, I don't listen to a whole lot of that now. Every now and then I do when I'm feeling nostalgic, but it's interesting how some of the old stuff that I was listening to when they were kids has re-entered some of their playlists. It's fascinating. So
That
maybe
is, yeah.
someday she'll surprise you with a playlist that has some of the tunes you used to used to listen to. None of my kids have gotten into the Linkin Park era that I went through, but
No?
there's still time.
Exactly. Okay. So let's see. So we only have a couple things left. So this part of the podcast, so this is kind of like the 15 minutes of fame part. So if there's anything you want to share, your socials or any topics we want to talk about that we didn't cover, this is kind of your time if you feel like taking it.
Oh, I'm not big on socials. I'm not pumping out a lot of content,
Okay.
short form videos, any of that.
Okay.
That's the wife's. The wife likes to post lots of beautiful. She's a photographer. Well,
Mm.
she's not a photographer, but she does a good job with photography. Um, I mean, occasionally I've posted some things I've learned. I'm gonna probably be putting something out on this Growth Gears book I've read, just encouraging people to read it and for the reasons why, just on LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn's really the only thing I've posted anything to of meaning outside of pictures of me traveling or going to places on my Instagram and Facebook page, but I don't put a whole lot out there for the broader audience. If I start a podcast though, I'll let you know.
Okay. Hey, I still think you should. I think I think we've had this discussion before around wine or
Yep,
music or whatever. You could totally have a podcast.
I could. I'm living in the place too where I have ready access to guests, and I have a network of winemakers and people in the biz. I could probably make it happen.
Dude,
Maybe I
people would love it.
maybe I need to look into that.
Yeah. Well, if you need any quick tips to start, just let me know.
I know where to go for sure.
Exactly. Okay. So then this is kind of the last question. This is one of my favorites. So the last guest I had on created a question for you, not knowing it
Okay.
was obviously for you. And then you're going to create a question for the next guest. So this one is a complete surprise.
Oh,
So let's see.
I'm ready.
Let me find it. Okay, perfect. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So, who do you feel is the most influential music artist of our time currently? And this couldn't have gone to a better person now that I think about
Oh
it.
yeah. Currently.
Currently,
Wow. Oh man. Influential musical artist currently. So the artist is Pharrell Williams. May have heard him a couple songs. There's something about "Because I'm Happy" song or whatever. It's very catchy, poppy.
I know
Um,
which one you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he's as far as an individual who's influencing music now. He's working with so many artists. He's going to different music schools. He regularly is a guest professor at like the Juilliard Music School or whatever. He's doing his part to really. He's not. You're not seeing a lot of his music out in space per se. But if I had to say what, as far as a music influencer right now, um, I mean, it's hard to say that guy isn't doing more now for young artists. Did I lose you again?
No,
Okay.
no, that's perfect.
Um,
Yeah.
and then as far as somebody who I think is just putting out, I mean, really good music. God, that's hard to say. Cause see, I try really hard not to. I have such a diverse music that I think there's a lot of it. It's hard for me because if you ask me what was my biggest musical influence growing up, I could give you 15 different artists. It's hard to say. I mean, everything from Pink Floyd to Tangerine Dream to Frank Sinatra to Devo. Shit, I don't know. I mean, it's wide ranging. So it's hard to say that somebody, who's putting out music or who has put out music that's influential. I did see an interesting documentary recently on the band Queen, not the movie Bohemian Rhapsody. This was like
Uh-huh.
a behind the scenes documentary and how influential they were in groups like The Who to rock music and stuff like that. But I totally have not answered your question, have I?
I mean, you said Pharrell
Yeah.
Williams.
I mean, if you're gonna put somebody in the category of
Yeah.
who's influencing up and coming artists today and
Uh-huh.
really working to improve the music industry and kind of pass along their knowledge and that sort of thing, you could do some research on him, but he's doing amazing things.
Okay, I dig it. Okay, now what question do you want to leave the next guest?
Well, I mean, this is cliche to some degree, but I think it's as I've as I've gotten older and I've kind of looked back on my life, um, and I certainly don't have any regrets. But the question, the interesting question would be, what would your current self, if they had one thing to go back, one piece of advice they could go back and give their younger self, what would it be? How's that?
It's good. Okay, so what advice would you give yourself?
It's all going to be okay, man. Just chill. It's going to be okay. How's that for short and sweet?
That was short and sweet.
I mean, that'd be tough too, because it's got to be one thing. You don't have, it's got to be one thing. What's the one thing you'd go back and tell them, your younger self? It'd be interesting to hear what some people say. Don't get in that
Yeah.
car. Don't do this, or don't break up with that girl. It's not meant to necessarily invoke either sort of regrets either. It's just meant to be kind of a what wisdom might you impart on your younger self.
I like it. Well, you're going to get to hear the next person, whoever that may
All
be,
right.
who they're going to get that question. So you'll have to tune in for that
I
one.
will definitely do that.
And then one thing I do is every 10 episodes. So when I get to episode 60, then I'll take all the guest questions that they created and answer those myself. So you'll get my answer to that when we hit episode 60.
Nice.
So
Okay.
cool.
How many episodes are you
Okay.
in?
You're going to be episode 55.
Okay.
So pretty good.
That's how old I
Pretty
am.
good.
That's my age.
Look at that. Then that was perfect
It was
timing.
it was
We'll
meant
never
to
forget.
be. See, if I'd have done
Exactly.
it early on, who knows what number I would have hit.
Yeah. Yeah. You would have been like 32 or
Yep.
something. I
See,
don't know.
it was meant to be today for us to talk.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. 100%. Yeah. And you text me out of the blue. That was perfect. Cause I actually didn't even know, cause I have a couple Kevins I know. So when you texted me, I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, Kevin. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Kevin wants to come back on the podcast. And then I was like, looking, I was like, oh, Kevin. Yeah. Okay. So
Like
that was
there's
good.
other
I'm
Kevins.
excited.
I mean, come on.
I've had another Kevin on the podcast, actually.
No, I was only kidding. I think I told you this. I said I'm a man of my word, and I told you I'd be on it.
You
Life
did.
had some twists and turns, and I wasn't ready. It would have been a very different podcast probably 6 months ago.
No, then that's
Yep.
perfect. Yeah. I think everything happens in good
Yep.
timing. So it was all how it should have been. So. Okay. So, Kevin, to close out the podcast, what advice do you want to give the audience as we close
Oh,
out?
geez. Just if you've got friends, you've got family, seek out. This is kind of a nod back to getting mind and body and spirit good. You can't always do it alone, you know? Um, you may feel like, well, so and so doesn't want my burden or doesn't want to hear about it or whatever, but sometimes it's okay to just, hey, you got a minute to talk? I'm kind of going through something I'd love I'd love your perspective on it. And even if you don't really want their perspective, you just want somebody to listen, do it.
Mhm.
Don't, I don't know. I've found so many times I've talked myself out of that and just justified why I would always come up with more reasons not to do that, Ricky.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I did that and come to find out, you know what? Everybody's got problems. Everybody needs help. Um,
Exactly.
and frankly, you have more in common with people. I tell my daughters that now. I go, I had this conversation with Tegan real quick because I got to wrap this up, and I know you do. We're going on what, 2 hours here. Um,
Yep.
we had some technical difficulties. Anyway, I told my youngest because you know she would just make a mountain out of a molehill, something that, of course, as a parent, you're like, oh, it's no big deal, but you can't tell them that, you know. And
Yeah.
um, at that point in time, they think it's only happening to them. Nobody else ever has had a boyfriend breakup. You know what I mean? It's whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they think it, and it's isolating, right? You just think you're all alone. Like,
Yep.
and so you're not alone. Seek out help if you need it. Whatever it is, whether it's mental health,
Mhm.
whether it's I, I've I've learned more this last 6 months reaching out to people that I've networked with over the years, not wanting their business, not wanting to hit them up because it was something business related. It was just, hey, how you doing? What are you doing? Tell me about what you're doing. Tell me how you got there. Um, just know you're not alone. Just reach out, use your network, ask for help when you need it, ask for advice when you need it, even when you think you don't need it or you don't want it. Sometimes that's the best
Mhm.
thing that can happen to you. So that's my advice.
Love it. That's basically why this podcast was created in the first place. So that's a perfect sign off.
Good,
Awesome. Well,
good.
Kevin, I'm glad that I got to get you on here
Yep.
finally. And just to kind of throw this out there, so I do bring returning guests back on for a special episode called Welcome to the Hot Seat.
Okay.
So just FYI, maybe down the line, if we want to get together again and we can do that. And that one works a little different where you create 4 questions for me, I create 4 for you, and we put each other on the spot. So we have no idea what questions we're giving each other. We
Okay.
just have fun little on the spot dialogue. So if you're interested in that, we'll get you back on.
Yeah, I'd be open to it. Hit me up. I've enjoyed this, and yeah, maybe I could tell you what's new in my life at that point in time too. And I'd love.
That sounds
I
perfect.
always, anytime, you know, anytime you want to talk, hit me up.
Same. That sounds
All
great.
right, Ricky. Appreciate it.
Cool. Okay, Kevin, I'll
All
see you
right.
later.
Thank you.